You know, when we think about World War II, we think of steel, of tanks, of massive armies. But what if I told you one of the most powerful weapons in the war was made of paper? Today, we're unfolding the story of the most audacious lie of the entire conflict, a tale of how one man, with basically just ink and imagination, built a ghost army that literally changed the course of history.
So, let's get right into the central mystery. Everybody knows about D-Day, right? The Normandy landings, June 6, 1944. But the part most people can't answer is this. How did the Allies convince the entire German High Command that the largest amphibious invasion in history was just a diversion?
Well, they did it with a phantom army, a whole lot of inflatable tanks, fake planes, and phony radio chatter. But the linchpin, the thing that made it all work, was the incredible story of a single man who built a web of lies so believable it completely paralyzed the German war machine right when it mattered most.
But to really get how the lie worked, we first have to unfold the papercraft model of the liar himself. A man who seemed destined for, well, nothing much at all. His name was Juan Pujol García.
I mean, look at his official resume. It was totally unremarkable. A failed chicken farmer, a hotel manager. But hidden beneath all that was a guy who was forged in the chaos of the Spanish Civil War. See, he'd served on both sides without ever firing a single shot, which gave him this deep hatred for totalitarianism and this almost supernatural talent for survival and deception.
So, wanting to fight the Nazis, Pujol comes up with this totally wild plan. He goes to the British embassy in Madrid, and they reject him. 3 times. They just didn't trust him. So Pujol thinks, fine, if the British won't hire me, I'll get the Germans to hire me first, and then I'll defect. He creates this whole fanatically pro-Nazi persona, convinces German intelligence he's their guy, and walks out with cash, a codename, and orders to go build a spy ring in Britain.
Okay, and this is where the story goes from unbelievable to just completely off the charts. Pujol never went to Britain, not once. Instead, he moves to Lisbon, Portugal. And from a simple room, like he's building an intricate paper model, he starts constructing a completely fictional reality for his German bosses.
Get this, his entire operation, his whole spy network was a work of total fiction, built with stuff you could find in a public library. From Lisbon, he's using a tourist guide to England, a railway timetable, and some newspapers to create this stream of super detailed intel about troop movements inside the UK, a country he'd never even set foot in.
And he knew he couldn't do it alone, or at least he had to look like he wasn't alone. So, to make his operation believable, he just invents a whole network of 27 fake subagents. Every single one was a unique character with their own backstory and personality, from a chatty waiter in Gibraltar to a Venezuelan student up in Glasgow. And this brings us to our first real aha moment. Because he wasn't actually in Britain, he made some hilarious mistakes. He once reported that men in Glasgow could be bribed with a liter of wine, which, if you know anything about Scotland or the British measurement system, is just wrong on so many levels. And yet the Germans were so overwhelmed by the sheer detail of his reports, they never even noticed. But someone else was paying attention. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park started picking up messages from this very highly valued German agent who was supposedly in Britain. They quickly figured out that a huge phantom convoy he'd reported was completely fake. This agent, this ghost, wasn't actually on British soil. MI5 knew they had to find him. So by 1942, MI5 finally gets a hold of him, brings him to London, and officially puts him on the payroll. They gave him the codename Garbo because he was just such an incredible actor. He gets paired with an MI5 case officer named Tommy Harris, and together they start to scale up his papercraft army for what would be their biggest performance ever, D-Day.
The plan was called Operation Fortitude, and the goal was simple, but huge. Create a massive phantom army, the first U.S. Army group, or FUSAG, that looked like it was about to strike at Pas-de-Calais, the closest point to England. Garbo's job was going to be crucial. He and his network would be the human intelligence, the eyes and ears on the ground, confirming that this massive pop-up army was real.
But you know, even the biggest, most brilliant plans can be tripped up by the smallest things. And this grand strategy, which was years in the making, was nearly undone. Not by German spies, but by a crisis brewing in Garbo's own house, fueled by homesickness and wartime food rationing.
So, get this. Pujol's wife, Araceli, was desperately unhappy in London. She hated the food, she missed Spain, and she complained non-stop about the lack of silk stockings. It got so bad that she threatened to go to the Spanish embassy and blow the entire operation wide open. MI5 barely avoided disaster by sending an agent on a top-secret mission to Portugal just to buy her stockings, and later they even had to stage Pujol's arrest just to convince her to stay quiet.
All right, so it's the morning of D-Day. The invasion is on, and Garbo's big moment comes. But his German radio operator in Madrid is asleep. When he finally gets through, hours after the landings have already started, Garbo doesn't panic. He turns it into a masterclass of acting, chewing out his handlers for their incompetence. And believe it or not, the Germans actually apologized to him, which only made him seem more credible for the masterstroke that was coming next.
And then it came, the masterstroke. 3 days after the landings, on June 9th, Garbo sent his most important message ever. In this long, incredibly detailed report, he told the German High Command with total authority that the invasion in Normandy was just a feint. It was a trick. The real, much bigger invasion was still on its way, headed straight for Pas de Calais.
And you know who read that report? Hitler himself. And he bought it. Convinced by Garbo's flawless track record, he ordered 2 panzer divisions and 19 infantry divisions to stay put at Pas de Calais. They sat there for 7 long weeks, giving the Allies the absolutely crucial time they needed to secure their beachhead in Normandy and start the push into Europe.
I mean, Garbo's deception was so perfect, so complete, that it leads to one of the most unbelievable, just head-scratching ironies in all of military history. This final chapter is almost as wild as the rest of his story.
Think about this for a second. In July of 1944, Hitler, yes, Hitler, personally awarded him the Iron Cross for his extraordinary service to the German Reich. And then, just 5 months later, King George VI made him a member of the Order of the British Empire. He is the only person in the entire Second World War to be decorated by both sides.
So what happens to a guy like that after the war? While fearing that some surviving Nazis might come looking for revenge, he folded up his life as a spy one last time. With MI5's help, he faked his own death from malaria and just disappeared. For 36 years, he lived in complete obscurity in Venezuela, running a little bookstore. His own family thought he was dead. He was only rediscovered in 1984 by a historian who just wouldn't give up the search.
The incredible story of Juan Pujol, Garbo, it just goes to show you that a single person's imagination and cleverness, layering lies like sheets of paper, can build a reality so strong it can misdirect entire armies, save thousands of lives, and genuinely change the world.
And that's really what we should take away from this. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden stories, what other papercraft realities are tucked away in the folds of history, just waiting for someone to unfold them?
Thank you so much for spending your time learning with us today. If you found this insightful, please like, comment with what surprised you most, and subscribe for more deep dives.